They say the worst decisions in life are often made in moments of crisis. I learned this lesson the hard way at 35, watching my tech company slip through my fingers while spending endless nights in hospital corridors. But let me start from the beginning. I'm Michael Chen, founder and former CEO of ByteSecure, a cybersecurity startup that went from my garage to a $50 million valuation in just 4 years. Former CEO, those words still taste bitter in my mouth. The company I built with sleepless nights and maxed out credit cards now sits in my younger brother David's hands, all because I made the mistake of trusting family. The irony doesn't escape me. I built a company protecting others from digital threats, yet I never saw the threat coming from within my own family. But then again, who expects their own brother to orchestrate their downfall? Mom's diagnosis came like a thunderbolt on a clear day. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the doctors said. 3 to 6 months, they estimated, though their eyes suggested even that might be optimistic. I still remember standing in that sterile hospital corridor, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows as my world tilted on its axis. Michael, I need you. Mom's voice was barely a whisper, her small hand clutching mine with surprising strength. Don't leave me alone in this place. How could I say no? This was the woman who raised us single-handedly after Dad died, who worked 2 jobs to put me through engineering school, who believed in my crazy dream of starting a tech company when everyone else called it risky. She'd sacrificed everything for us. Now it was my turn to be there for her. David, my younger brother by 3 years, stood in the corner of the hospital room, his designer suit a stark contrast to my rumpled t-shirt and jeans. He'd flown in from New York where he worked as an investment banker, all polished surfaces and sharp edges. You can't abandon the company now, he argued later in the hospital cafeteria, stirring his untouched coffee. ByteSecure is at a critical growth stage. The board won't understand. It's Mom, I shot back, running a hand through my disheveled hair. She needs someone here full-time. The hospitals, the treatments, the paperwork, it's overwhelming. Then let me help, David offered, his voice softening. You handle Mom's care, I'll step in temporarily at ByteSecure. Just until she's better. I should have seen the calculated look in his eyes, should have remembered how he'd always envied my success. How he'd made snide remarks about lucky breaks and being in the right place at the right time. But I was exhausted, worried about Mom, and desperate for a solution. Just temporarily, I agreed, pushing away the nagging doubt in my gut. And you'll keep me in the loop on all major decisions. David smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze my shoulder. Of course, big brother. We're family. Family. That word would come back to haunt me. The next 3 months became a blur of hospital corridors, chemotherapy sessions, and endless consultations with doctors. Mom's condition deteriorated rapidly, each day stealing more of her strength. I spent every moment I could with her, reading her favorite books, showing her photos from my travels, reminiscing about childhood memories. Between managing her care and trying to get some sleep, I barely had time to check my work emails. David sent regular updates, but they were always vague. Everything's fine. Board's happy. Focus on Mom. I trusted him, or maybe I was just too overwhelmed to dig deeper. Then came the shareholders' meeting I couldn't attend because Mom was having a bad day. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages from the board members. David had convinced them that my extended absence showed a lack of commitment to the company. He presented himself as the stable alternative, the one who'd been keeping the ship afloat while I was distracted with personal matters. The board voted to make him permanent CEO. I stormed into his hotel room that evening, fury burning through my exhaustion. How could you do this? This company is my life's work. David lounged in an armchair, his tie loosened but his composure perfect. The board made their decision, Michael. They need someone fully committed to the company's future. I trusted you. That was your choice, he shrugged, taking a sip of his whiskey. Business is business. You taught me that. I wanted to punch him to wipe that smug look off his face. But Mom's monitors had started beeping and I had to rush back to the hospital. By the time I returned, David had checked out and flown back to the office, my office. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. Mom's condition worsened rapidly and I watched helplessly as cancer consumed her body. During her lucid moments, she'd ask about the company and I'd lie, telling her everything was fine. She had enough burdens without knowing how her sons had turned against each other. The morning Mom died, the sun was just rising over the city skyline. I held her hand as she took her last breath, her fingers going slack in mine. David arrived 2 hours later, his suit as impeccable as ever. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said formally, as if speaking to a stranger rather than his brother. I didn't respond. What was there to say? The funeral was a blur of black suits and murmured condolences. I noticed several board members there, shooting me awkward glances before gravitating toward David. He played the part of the grieving son perfectly, dabbing at his eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief while networking with potential investors. A week later, we gathered in Mom's lawyer's office for the will reading. David sat across from me, emanating confidence. He had reason to be confident. He'd always been Mom's favorite, the one who called regularly, sent expensive gifts, took her on luxury vacations. I'd been too busy building my company to compete with his grand gestures. Mr. Patterson, Mom's lawyer for the past 20 years, cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "Before we begin, I should mention that your mother made some last-minute changes to her will." David's smile widened. I slumped in my chair, preparing for the final blow in this horrible month. "As per the primary will, all assets and properties go to David Chen," Mr. Patterson read monotonously. David's smirk was triumphant as he reached for the documents. But Mr. Patterson wasn't finished. However, he continued, pulling out a sealed envelope. "There is a second document your mother prepared to be opened only after her death." The smirk froze on David's face. I sat up straighter, something in the lawyer's tone catching my attention. Mr. Patterson broke the seal and pulled out several papers. "This," he said, "is where things get interesting." The silence in the lawyer's office was deafening as Mr. Patterson opened the second envelope. David's confident posture had stiffened, his knuckles white as he gripped the armrests of his chair. "This document," Mr. Patterson began, his voice steady, "was recorded by your mother 3 days before her death. Along with it, she left several USB drives and a personal letter." I remembered that day. Mom had been unusually alert, insisting on speaking privately with her lawyer. I'd assumed she was just updating her will to favor David even more. "To my sons," Mr. Patterson read, "if you're hearing this, it means I'm no longer with you. David, I know what you've done." The color drained from David's face. "I may have been dying, but I wasn't blind. While Michael sat by my bedside, I watched you systematically dismantle everything he built. I saw the board meeting minutes, the altered financial reports, the emergency shareholder votes scheduled when you knew Michael couldn't attend." My head spun. Mom had known? All this time. On these USB drives, the lawyer continued reading, "You'll find copies of all original company documents, unaltered financial statements, and recordings of every conversation David had in my hospital room when he thought I was sleeping. He made quite a few interesting phone calls, planning his takeover." David jumped to his feet. "This is ridiculous. She was on heavy medication. None of this would hold up in court." "Actually," Mr. Patterson interjected, "your mother was of completely sound mind when she recorded this. We have medical evaluations to prove it. She also took the liberty of forwarding copies of everything to the SEC." I sat there, stunned, as Mom's voice continued through Mr. Patterson's reading. "Michael, my devoted son, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you what was happening. I needed David to believe his plan was working. You see, while you were taking care of me, I was taking care of you." Tears blurred my vision. Even on her deathbed, she'd been protecting me. "David," the letter continued, "I'm disappointed but not surprised. You've always wanted what your brother had without being willing to work for it. You chose greed over family, and now you'll face the consequences." Mr. Patterson pulled out more documents. Mrs. Chen filed a detailed report with the SEC documenting the hostile takeover and securities fraud. She also left instructions with the board's ethics committee. Everything should be hitting the fan right about. He checked his watch now. As if on cue, both our phones started buzzing. Mine showed messages from board members and news alerts. David's face went ashen as he read his screen. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." I opened the news alert. ByteSecure CEO under investigation for securities fraud. Board announces emergency meeting. "You'll find," Mr. Patterson continued calmly, "that your mother's primary will leaving everything to David was essentially a trap. By accepting it, He also accepted liability for several fraudulent property transfers he initiated while she was hospitalized. Quite clever, really. David lunged for the door, but two SEC agents were already waiting outside. I watched in shock as they read him his rights, his designer suit suddenly looking like costume armor crumbling away. "One last thing," Mr. Patterson said, handing me another envelope. "Your mother's actual will. Everything goes to you, Michael, including her controlling shares in Byte Secure that David didn't know about. She bought them quietly over the years, believing they might be needed someday." Inside the envelope, I found a handwritten note from Mom. "My dearest Michael, I know you'll probably be angry that I let this play out instead of stopping it sooner, but some lessons need to be learned the hard way. David needed to face consequences, and you needed to see that sometimes the people closest to us aren't who they pretend to be. You have a good heart, son. That's your strength, not your weakness. But good hearts need protection sometimes. Consider this my final act of motherly protection. Take care of Byte Secure. It's yours, truly yours now. And remember that success means nothing without integrity. All my love, Mom." The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind. David was indicted on multiple charges of securities fraud and corporate espionage. The board, faced with evidence of their complicity in the hostile takeover, resigned en masse. I returned to Byte Secure as CEO, this time with a deeper understanding of both business and human nature. 3 months later, I sat in my rebuilt office, looking at Mom's picture on my desk. The company was stronger than ever, our reputation actually enhanced by how transparently we handled the crisis. David was awaiting trial, our family permanently fractured, but the truth finally exposed. I picked up Mom's photograph, smiling at her familiar face. Even at the end, she'd been 3 steps ahead of everyone else. She taught me one final lesson. Sometimes justice comes quietly, delivered not with angry confrontations, but with careful preparation and perfect timing. Last week, I received a letter from David's lawyer. He wants to meet, to apologize, to make amends. I haven't decided if I'll go. Mom's note sits in my desk drawer, her words about success and integrity echoing in my mind. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some bridges, once burned, leave only ashes. But from those ashes, I've built something stronger. A company founded not just on innovation, but on the principles my mother taught me: honor, integrity, truth. Every morning when I walk into Byte Secure, I pass by a new installation in our lobby, a simple plaque with Mom's favorite saying: "Trust is earned, not given." Below it, in smaller letters, I added my own addition: "And the truth always comes to light." It's not the family legacy I expected, but it's one I'm proud to uphold.